how would you or me or anyone would introduce morality to a person who doesn't know about Islam? Why should someone be good? If in case we agree to the stance of the West, the secular, the liberals, the atheists, why should someone be good?
Humans, good or bad, can only come from what is the purpose behind humans. Now, we didn't make ourselves.
When there is no common ground in that, for them, there is no purpose, there is no morality, there is no base. So how do we deal with that?
How do you know you have limitations? Because there are things you can't do, and there's pains you can't get rid of.
Absolutely.
If you were born into a universe where everything was fun and you could do whatever you want to do, you'd think you were God.
If a human life passes and exceeds the American borders, so it no longer has the same value. It doesn't apply on the value of a human life. It doesn't apply. The laws doesn't apply on it as soon as it exceeds the border.
If you believe that you're a Zionist, most Zionists aren't Jews.
Ooh.
Most Zionists are Christians.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Dr. Umar Farooq Said and you're watching another episode of Rational Reflections. Today we have a very special guest with us. Before introducing him, I would like to talk about the topic. The point is that I have seen personally in my life as well, because it happens to be my field of interest as well, that people are not sure what exactly morality is, because it is one of the most important things in the life of a human being. But even then, there is some ambiguity regarding its definition, where it applies and where it doesn't, and who are the people basically who have the right to define it. And there are many more things for which we needed an expert opinion. And for that, we have Sheikh Abdullah Al-Undlusi with us in the studio. Sheikh, first of all, thank you so much for being in the studio and giving us the time. I would like to start. I have seen your work, graded of your work with Al-Balagh Academy on your YouTube channel as well. I have seen you working and speaking and in debates as well. And one thing I always wanted to ask you, that what exactly is morality? How should we define it, or who should define it? Is there an objective definition of it?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Barakallah feekum for inviting me onto your show. I would never call myself a sheikh. I'm far from below that. So please just call me brother.
Oh, brother, that's your humbleness.
All right. So I've done a few debates with atheists on the issue of morality, and the debates go back and forth. But one of the key elephant in the room, as they say, is the expression.
Exactly.
Is no one defines what good and bad is. The words themselves linguistically. No one says, well, what do you mean good and bad? Can they be broken down? Are they reducible further underlying definitions?
Right.
And no one in any language, you can't really do so. You can't really break them down. They just are those words. And usually the parents, they teach the kids by associating pleasure with good or pain with bad, to give a basic idea of what these words mean. But intrinsically, you can't define them by itself unless you refer to something else. They can't be defined in of themselves.
Okay.
So one of the many debates I have, the atheists usually attempt to deflect by saying, well, what would you like? What would you not like?
Okay.
And surely we can all come to an agreement as to what we mutually like, what we mutually don't like, and therefore we'll call that good, we'll call that bad.
All right.
But the problem is that people like different things, and also something that may be good for you might be at the expense of me.
Exactly.
And since you're not living my life, you're only living your life. Why should you care if you have a reasonable chance of not having any repercussions?
Right.
So, for example, dictators, if they're reasonably secure, or the rich generally, politicians and so on and so forth, who can tread on the poor, or forget about poor, or forget about a region of people. They might say, I'm a rich Punjabi, why should I don't need to care about the poor Balochis. So this is the situation that atheists, then the debate is mostly about how can we get, the atheists would argue, how can we get everybody to care on something all the time, about something, whereas what I usually point out is if you make human desires the basis for good and bad, human desires come and go, they are capricious, they are subjective, they change, and you'll never have any consistency
right
or basis other than what personally drives you.
Like can we still set a parameter for morality in a sense that can there be a lower level of it, or can there be a higher level of it, and can there be a moderately that level which is agreed upon can be agreed? People can come up to one particular point that okay, we can agree to this moderate level of morality.
The problem is we can agree, but not as an atheist.
Okay, because they don't have any standard according to you.
They have standards that they assume or they produce, but just don't look behind the curtain, as they say.
Right.
You'll see there's nothing there. And that's what it is. They will just say, let's just take that this is good and bad. And if we all can agree that we don't like this stuff or we like this stuff, that's fine. But it doesn't always apply. So they often say things like, in a society, we wouldn't want to legalize murder or rape because you could be murdered yourself. A family member you love could be raped, or you could be raped, and so you wouldn't like this. So we could all agree that we would make that illegal. So isn't that a common morality that we can all hold?
Right.
And then you ask them, okay, all right, but why would you say this is something that is common and that we could all agree on it? And they'll say, because you wouldn't like to live in a society where that was legalized. So that's the basis, an agreement. If you lived in a society where that was legalized, you'd be worried about the consequences. There's a set of American movies called based on something called The Purge. I think you might
The Purge and Aki Purge.
Yeah. So the movies were really a commentary on the Americans, the Second Amendment, and their permission to have arms.
Right.
To have weapons, but basically, it was the premise of the movies, for those who don't know, is there was for 12 hours once a year, every crime was legal, and you could unleash yourself, do whatever you want to do, get it out your system, and then you can be nice and productive citizen the rest of the year. So you can commit murder, rape, be sadistic, whatever, right?
And they claim that it will do good to the mental health of people.
Yeah, that was in the movie.
I told.
So, but really, the movies was a commentary on Americans' right to bear arms and how it also negatively affects the poor people and so on and so forth. Anyway, it's a different discussion.
That's right.
But what they would say is you wouldn't like to live in that society, during the purge. You wouldn't like to live in those 12 hours where things were allowed for everybody. Although, interesting enough, if you were rich, you could have fortified houses so people couldn't break in. You could have armed guards who were contractually would be paid to protect you during that time.
That's right.
So that it showed that the rich people actually were totally okay with the purge because it reduces the poor people population.
Exactly.
The rich go out hunting, for killing poor for fun, and it reduces their population. There's less poor people, less homeless people, so that's less burden on the economy. Diseased people get killed out, get almost like a Darwinian evolutionary survival of the fittest. And so for the rich people, I would say even in that situation, as a rebuttal to the atheists, the rich people would be totally fine with the purge. They'd be totally fine as long as, because they have enough money to not be affected by it. But also there's another situation that usually occurs in most societies that where murder and rape done has no consequences. And this occurs not in the society itself, but when it goes to war with another society. The other society, the other nation, they're not your people. So if you are the superior military vanquishers and you're a soldier, many soldiers, you go through anxiety and fear, you're being shot and being killed. That creates a different state of mind in soldiers. And when you're going through this fight or flight process again and again, and then you're in enemy population, you're winning, and you suddenly have women now who are under your capture.
Yes.
And there's going to be no consequences to whatever you do to them. We see rape is a very ubiquitous tactic that many armies use. Some use it even deliberately to demoralize the enemy. Massacres of civilians, looting, and so on is so common. So I tell the atheists, how do you argue against that? And they'll say, well, let's have a universal international law that says you can't do that. Okay, but for the rich countries or the bigger, powerful countries, there's no reason why not to allow their soldiers to do so. And the state of Israel, quote unquote, is a case in point. They can do things with complete impunity. What can an atheist say against them? Are there be consequences? They're protected by America. America has a geostrategic interest in protecting the state of Israel, so they can do what they want with impunity, and that's why they do it.
One thing also that you talked about the movie, and it just rang a bell. Even the name is very self-contradictory according to me. But even so, some things I also feel that is happening in the society. That even in the first one, there are 5 of those, I think. In the first one, they showed that it's not working. The purge is not working. People are not interested. People are abstaining from participating in the purge. They had to pay people. They had to pay people to participate in it. And when the word was out that you will be paid this and this much of money if you would participate in the purge, and so then people started to participate. Isn't it the same in a way happening in the society as well? What we see in the dark web, we know that on the dark web people hire such people, and the rich ones, of course, it's not for the poor people, it's not for the even of the middle class, it's for the rich. The rich may hire people, and the dark web, things like that happen. Even so, may Allah forbid that rape and murders and such kind of things are still happening in the city. So in a sense that the movie is not very fictional, I would say. It is happening in the society in one form or the other.
Yes. I will pick now, murder and rape tends to be an extreme example. And I tend to rebut the atheists saying that, look, we don't need to always discuss the extreme examples, although I would say that their worldview is insufficient to be able to address it. When there's no consequences. When if there's no consequences or only gain, they can't answer against it. But I say let's take something more commonplace: corruption. So why are politicians corrupt? Now there's a great YouTube video you can check out. It's based on a book. I think it's called The Keys to Power.
Okay.
And it explains the origin of corruption, how it occurs, and it explains it that actually is quite rational. So let's say you are a powerful general commander, what have you, of a country. Now, no one rules alone. You can't build the roads yourself. You can't put the electricity lines, infrastructure, and do the industry. You're one guy. You need people. People have to obey you. But how do you get them to obey you? Well, you have a bunch of people under you who each of these individuals, maybe generals, lieutenants, heads of administration, judges, whatever you. Now, they have people under them, and they have people under them, and so on. Now, those people under you only have power because they obey you. If they find that they can pay someone else who gives them a better deal, then you'll be out of power. Now, you have access to the treasury, i.e. the taxes of the people. Okay? So if you have access to taxes of the people, then you need to use those taxes to pay your commanders, your followers, to be loyal to you.
Exactly.
And the reason why a lot of money goes on corruption is because if you don't pay them enough, someone else will say, hey, if you support me instead, I'll give you more money than the other guy. So then if you want to stay in power, even if you feel like you could do good, you still have to pay off these corrupt people. So in dictatorships, what usually happens is corruption is a norm to maintain political stability. Otherwise, there are coups when a lower general gets given a better offer. He coordinates with his friends. Hey, let's chop this guy out. Let's get a better offer.
So that raises a question: Can morality be objective? Can there be an objective morality? Plus, if not, or if yes, why should someone be good? If in case we agree to the stance of the West, the secular, the liberals, the atheists, why should someone be good?
Sure. So the reason why I made that previous example is to show that in many countries that were created by the West, secular countries and so on and so forth, because people didn't have pre-existing traditions, but because their traditions were wiped out and the new ones, and artificial ones were created, almost all countries that were created by colonialism are corrupt in some way, shape or form, by the very same process. And it doesn't matter if it's an atheist government, non-atheist government, they can't deal with corruption because there's no higher morality other than simply power and self-interest. There's nothing higher than that. So what you need is a society that either has one or two things. One, they actually have a real objective morality, or they have traditions that are practiced that no one questions, and it looks strange to change them. So blindly follow traditions. That we keep them there. Maybe they have utility because if everyone believes in these traditions, even if they don't have any basis to them, let's just keep them. For example, England maintaining a monarchy is one example.
That's right.
And did you know that actually technically England is partially a dictionary definition of a theocracy?
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Not only is the king, now the king, he's the head of the church.
Okay.
Right. So he's the head of the Jama'ah, the Christian Jama'ah.
Okay.
So he's the head of the church, which is a very strange thing. But there are, I think it is 33, I think, if I remember correctly, 33 guaranteed seats in the House of Lords for members of the church, the Church of England, clergy, priests or bishops or what have you.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
It's reserved, they're guaranteed seats. And they're the ones who vote on the laws, right? Now, 33 seats out of, like over 400 or 500. Sure. But when you have members of the clergy who vote on laws, that is the definition of a theocracy, which is a priest caste involved in ruling. Technically, though, the head of church is actually the head of state. So why do we have that in England? Why do we still have this? Because most people in England will say we're democracy, but you're not. You're a constitutional parliamentary monarchy.
Monarchy,
right?
Yes.
Why? And they'll say, because these traditions that we've inherited, yes, we can't rationalize why they should exist. Well, you have unelected members in the second chamber of government. However, because we all believe in these traditions and we don't question them, well, not seriously. It maintains stability because we have a sunnah, you could say.
Yeah.
This is how we do things here. Don't ask questions. Just continue doing those things,
right?
And things should be stable, right? So unless you have an unquestioning set of arbitrary traditions, the only other thing that that can remove corruption, actually rise above self-interest, is objective morality. Now, what do we mean by objective morality? And this is the question you've been trying to get to this point. But exactly. I wanted to go first through I want to go through the atheist patio before we go into the theist house. Right?
I understand.
All right. So, objective morality is morality that is true regardless of your mental state. So regardless of your desires, tastes, what have you. I met a person who's, let's say, a part secular Pakistani. I met him today, and I won't say who. And we were having a little discussion.
Okay.
And he said that he sees some good in secularism for Pakistan and what have you. And I said, okay, so do you support gay marriage? Right? Same-sex marriage. He goes like, oh, no, I wouldn't support that. No, I'm not arguing for that. No, that's too extreme. I was like, why extreme? If you're saying that the laws of Pakistan should not be based on Islam, then and people should then be allowed to follow a type of morality, any type they want, as long as they're not physically harming other people, whatever. That's liberalism. Then why not? It's just your tastes. You recoil at this, thinking that, well, I just find it distasteful, so I'm for banning it. But let's say if Pakistan became full-on liberal state, maybe not your kids, but your kids will be like, why not have gay marriage? Why not? Yeah, you can't get on the train and then expect that the train will stop before it reaches its natural conclusion along the tracks. It's not going to stop midway. It's going to keep going on those tracks. So that's that. It's just taste. Objective morality is something that's true whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, or whether your culture or the society is in one way or another, or what have you. It's always going to be wrong. So what is it? If it's not something physical, because if I get a microscope and I try to look for morality, I can't find it. There's no atoms and no subatomic particles. So where can morality come from? And there's only one place it can come from. Good and bad can only be determined by purpose. Why? Well, you have a phone there. It works, right? I'm going to assume it works. So it's mostly a good phone. I don't know if it's slow or not, but it's a good phone because it works. Now, let's say that phone, you left it out in this really baking sun today, and it caught fire and just was completely gutted. Nothing left in it worth. It's just a burnt out husk. Good phone or bad phone?
Of course, I said the phone in itself is a good phone, but if I place it in the baking hot sun, of course, it's my fault to place it at the wrong place.
Sure, but after it's been gutted by fire and it's now no longer works and it's no longer even it no longer does any functions. Is it a good or bad phone?
It's good for nothing now.
It's good for nothing. Okay, yeah. So you'd say it's a bad phone.
Exactly. It's good for nothing.
Why? Why one way good phone, one way bad phone? Where'd you get that from? Why do you say it's a good phone and bad phone? What determines
of
that?
Its ability to work. If it's not working, then it's no good for me.
No good for you. So what was it? Why is its working connected to its good and bad? Why?
Inherently, if I see it's a good phone, even if after it's destroyed, it stays good. If I see from that angle, but when it's not working for me, then it's no good for me. So for what?
Why? If it's not, why is that?
Because it doesn't serve the purpose with which I got it.
Exactly.
Yes.
It doesn't serve its purpose. It was created by humans, so we gave it a purpose relative to us to serve us for communication needs and managing our affairs and so on and information. And if it can't do that anymore,
Yes.
it's a bad phone.
Exactly.
So humans, good or bad, can only come from what is the purpose behind humans. Now, we didn't make ourselves.
Right.
Who did? Okay. Now, if you're an atheist, you say that the universe made you on mind without any design or intent. Then again, there's no good and bad. You're just you're an accident, and everything you do are accidents. Accidents are not good or bad by themselves in terms of the fact that whether an accident happens, if a tree falls down due to wind, no one's going to say that was a good or bad accident. It just happened. But where our good and bad can only be determined by a creator of humans who made us with intention.
Exactly.
And if we're made by a creator and the creator, then we have a good and bad. If we fulfill the purpose that the creator intended us to do, we're good. And if we don't, we're bad. And of course, we'd say that the creator doesn't need anything from us. We don't serve in terms of providing him something he can't provide himself in that sense, like the phone can.
Exactly.
But what we can do is we've given free will, and our purpose is to voluntarily make the creator the basis for our lives, what we do, what we should and should not do, right? Rather than simply following the blind chance of whatever moves our impulses and desires and so on and so forth.
It reminded me of Richard Dawkins, and you would know about his narrative that no lives matter. There used to be Black Lives Matter in 2019 or so, 2020 or 2019, and he actually did tweet that no lives matter. So for the people who are, coming from that kind of a mindset, atheistic mindset, for them there is no purpose, no lives matter. No matter you're white, you're black, no matter what religion you come from, no matter what your ideology is, for them it's no good. The life doesn't serve any purpose for them. So if you take that out of the equation, like you would remember a debate between Bada Hamza Zorzes and Lawrence Krauss, if I'm not wrong. In that, Krauss also said there is nothing wrong in incest as well. Even he agreed to that. If there is something wrong, that is genetically. Like, of course, it might create some biological problems. Apart from that, there is nothing morally wrong in that, because there is no parameter for that. The parameter to decide what exactly the morality on which we act should be. So when there is no common ground in that. For them, there is no purpose, there is no morality, there is no base. So how do we deal with that?
Well, he said, Lawrence Krauss said that maybe there's some biological problems with the man and woman, but if they just loving. I have a new dilemma for the atheists, and it's purely just testing their tastes. Why do you assume that the two siblings are different genders? What if it's two brothers or two sisters?
Okay.
No worry of genetic problems because they can't reproduce.
Okay.
Should that be allowed? Right now, that would be my dilemma to the atheist. And I have a second dilemma to the atheist as well.
Okay.
I can even go. They'll say, I put to them, brother and sister. You say it's wrong. Why? Is it wrong? If they say it's not wrong, then okay, fine. You've expelled. This is them. But if they do say it's wrong, they say because of maybe genetic problems with the child.
Exactly.
So you could say, well, firstly, that's not guaranteed.
Okay.
Yeah. Secondly, does that mean now that we can get involved to prevent human reproduction if it produces handicapped offspring, disabled offspring? Can we get, in essence, a type of social Darwinism? Can we start being involved in banning people who have genetic diseases from reproducing? Can we do that now? Can we create a society now where you have to have a DNA test, and if your DNA is inferior, you're not allowed to reproduce using that because the child may have a miserable life with some defects? Can we get involved? So I said, no, that's horrific. So, but that's the only basis where your logic goes down to. If you say that we can prohibit things because of genetic problems that may occur with the offspring. So you come into this dystopic society.
Exactly.
And as I said, so this is all multiple dilemmas where the atheist will go down to. All you're really doing is just showing that whatever basis the atheist adopts, it produces a contradiction. That's all. And as you know, as the Quran says, falsehood produces contradictions. Anything that does not come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala produces contradictions. Whereas I'd say that the creator of the universe determining what actions we should do as created beings in this universe is the only basis for good and bad.
A question just crossed my mind. How would we, or how should we address the primordial incest which happened within the children of Adam? So how should we address it? Is it also something that we have to see from the same lens as you were mentioning, or there is some other detail to it as well?
Sure. So some atheists have commented on both the biblical and the Quranic account and said that, didn't Adam and Hawa, or Eve in English, didn't they have children? Then who are they going to? These children are going to reproduce with, if not each other? So doesn't that mean that incest is okay then, but not okay now, and so on and so forth? So the problem here is that atheists try to locate morality in the object. Okay. But no, morality is located in the hukum of Allah, in Allah's commands, right? So, for example, in that case, with Allah's permission, there would be no genetic problems with them intermarrying. And I think in the Islamic account, it was the children that were born in the day were only allowed to marry the children that were born at night. Not the same one. But in that particular situation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ensured there would be no problems, both emotionally, physically, genetically, and so on with the offspring. In this situation now, not so. But that isn't the basis. The basis, as I said, is Allah's command is simply the basis for good and bad.
That exactly takes us to Islam. That how Islam defines morality. What standard of morality does Islam have? How would you or me or anyone would introduce morality to a person who doesn't know about Islam?
Well, I'd say it like this, if you'd like to look at it in a slightly poetic way, but actually technically this is the case. So there are many causes in the universe. So we see the Quran, Allah is the best of creators, right? So he uses plural. Like a woodworker makes a wooden chair, a wooden table, a microchip manufacturer makes microchips and then goes into phones and things. These are all, you could say, creators. But they're not the true creation. They don't truly create from absolute nothing. They take something that Allah has already made and then shapes it. And there's a funny joke, I think, where someone says, I don't need God. I'm self-sufficient. I can do my own thing. I just want to be left alone. I don't want to have to worship God. And so I'm going to be by myself. And so, I'm going to be myself and make my own food from the farms and so on. And then he does that. And then he's told, no, get your own dirt, get your own land, get your own, your own universe.
I understand.
Get your own body.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in that sense, there are many different causes in the universe. This heat is causing us to sweat. Lack of food causes you to be hungry.
Starve.
Yeah. And thirsty, especially in this heat as well.
Yes.
There are many causes. Someone might say an offensive word to you that might cause you to be angry.
Exactly.
You might trip over, bang your arm, that causes you pain. There are many causes. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our purpose in this life is to make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the highest cause for our actions. So our desires, as they call it, when we say, either you follow your desires, you follow Allah. This is the typical thing that, as Muslims we're told that, you have a choice between your desires and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, some of your desires align with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some don't. The thing is, what do you mean by your desires? Rather is that there is a lot of these environmental factors, internal factors, genetic factors, a whole bunch of things, parental factors that give you psychological characteristics, sometimes traumatic, sometimes not. All this stuff is stuff you really didn't choose.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's true.
These are all random idols, you could say. Now, as Muslims, what the Creator wants from us, we're free willed creatures who have an intellect and are able to intellectually detect God, i.e., we can know that there must be a Creator. We can detect His existence by knowing He must exist to explain what we can see and so on. There's no other possible explanation. And He deliberately gave us these faculties.
Okay.
What He wants, and then He gives us revelation that is knowable and gives guidance and actions.
Right.
Why? Because we now have a choice. I can either do something that my random desires push me to do, or I can do something which is still a cause within me. My desire to worship the Creator is part of the human being, or the desire to follow something greater than ourselves. This is the basic fitter instinct, right? But it needs guidance as to where you direct it. Do I make Allah the first and highest cause for all my actions, or do I make these lesser causes, these idols, the basis for my actions, the highest point, the highest reference for my actions? Even though there's no meaning, they are random happenstance of this universe. They're just stuff that happens, accidents of emotions, you fall over, whatever, all this stuff. These are just accidents that occurred. Do I make them the basis for my good and bad? Or do I make the Creator the highest cause of my actions? So it's all about, in a sense, Tawheed. Allah alone being the basis for all my actions, the cause of my actions, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so I might react to situations that occur to me, but I react according to that highest cause. It tells me how to react.
And that might give, let me pose a little, something which I feel a little difficult to comprehend, is that, for example, you're saying that everything must and should have a cause, as nothing can be a product of chance. That is what you are referring to, if I am to understand it correctly.
Nothing is a causal for us.
Basically how we see, you talked about environment as well. So whenever some environmental calamity happens, and of course that wouldn't be a product of chance as well, that would also be, of course, there would be a cause, and behind every cause we believe that there is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our faith. So how would we address or say that what might be the reason, what might be the ideology in order to justify such things happening, where people are losing their lives, where people end up being amputated sometimes also, not only in environmental calamities, also in sometimes people are born with defects. Of course, in that case as well, it's not the fault of the baby, it's not the fault of a child that he's born like that. So how would that, if the morality of basically what we believe in as a faith in Islam, that we are morally very upright, so how would these upright, the God that we have, of course, He is the source of everything, then why these things happen?
Okay, so when I said accidents happen, things happen, you could say by chance. Relative to your perspective, chance is a word humans invented to explain things which are more complicated than they could understand, comprehend, or work out.
Okay.
So things, a very complicated universe we live in. We can calculate all the causes and everything that could happen if we had absolute perfect knowledge. But because we don't, and things are outside our control,
right,
we give a word for it. Knowledge outside, or things outside our knowledge and control, we call it chance, and an accident happenstance. Ultimately, everything comes from the Creator.
Okay.
However, here's the thing, is that in order for us to choose to make the Creator the highest cause of our actions, we need to have another option.
Okay.
Right? If there was no other option, it's not really choice, is it? Right? And so, in essence, we bear witness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our free will by choosing Him over the lesser causes. Now, He's in control of all these other lesser causes. But the issue is this. It's kind of like, I'll give you an example, if you like. Someone It's an imperfect example. Someone makes
Okay.
a puppet. Okay? There's a puppeteer and the puppet.
Hmm.
So they make a show, and the puppeteer is very skilled in the puppet with noise, everything great, excellent. He makes a wonderful show.
Hmm.
But people say, no, I don't like the puppeteer. I like the puppet.
Okay.
It's like, no, but the puppeteer made the puppet. The puppeteer is controlling the puppet.
Right.
That's a bit insulting to the puppeteer because the puppeteer made that show.
Hmm.
Okay. So in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he creates the false idols.
Hmm.
As it's supposed to be he creates the stone that people take to make into statues and worship them across the border.
Exactly.
Yeah. But he doesn't force people to worship those things.
Hmm.
He doesn't force people to succumb to their lusts.
Hmm.
He doesn't force people to drink alcohol.
Hmm.
He just makes the materials available. He makes the opportunities available
Hmm.
because for choice to have any real meaning,
Hmm.
for your free will to exist, it has to have more than one choice.
Okay.
And so the creator of the universe makes lesser causes or idols, as you could say,
Hmm.
to give you the choice to say, you pick which is to you the highest cause in the creation. So those who bear witness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pick him as the highest cause.
Hmm.
So all actions only have meaning by your command, by your word, not your other servants. I'm not going to worship your servants. I'm going to worship the creator, the master of the servants. Whereas other people say, no, I'm going to make your servants to be my master, to be the master,
Hmm.
right? And I'm not going to bear witness to you with my free will.
Okay.
Disbelievers, rejectors, kafirin. So this is in essence, the very purpose of human life itself. Choosing the master over the servants. Choosing, bearing witness with our free will.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Now, you asked another question. Why is there suffering? Which is a separate question, not related to good and bad. So morality, good and bad, is related to, are you going to make Allah the cause of your actions? And is each action you do bearing witness to him because he is the ultimate cause of how you acted or reacted to something?
Right. Right.
That's done. I can also add just an extra bit that also this is why we say that actions done for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have no meaning. Why? Because meaning is something that stays.
Right.
Right. If someone asked an atheist, there's a guy I debated once called Andrew Cobson, head of the British Humanist Association. Back in the day, I debated him, and someone asked him. It was an atheist conference or a festival, someone is, and someone asked him a question on stage, and a fellow atheist, in 1 billion years, will any of our actions matter? Anything we've done, we loved, suffered, anything that we strive to do in 1 billion years, will anything have mattered when in 1 billion years, everything that you've probably done would have been erased from the face of the earth?
Absolutely.
Maybe the earth, the earth would be a bit more than 1 billion years, but it would be destroyed. So he said, well, that's a silly question, and he kind of like prevaricated and didn't answer it. I would say, that proves that all actions not done for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have no meaning because they will not stay. Actions done for him will be remembered by him and rewarded by him forever. So they're the only things you'll stay. The house that you build, that you'll strive so much to build and decorate and make it look nice, will collapse one day. And you'll have great grandkids, inshallah, that won't remember your name or even know that you existed, most likely.
Exactly.
Yeah? What will stay is Allah's knowledge of what you did. Right? So that's real meaning. Now, suffering, if you like,
Suffering.
like that one.
Absolutely,
Yeah?
absolutely.
I've made you suffer through my long answers. But so now
I'm
I'll try to explain
really
that.
enjoying, and it is increasing my knowledge as well, mashallah.
So, suffering, people misunderstand suffering. They think if God is a good God, now they attribute that God is good, like he's serving a purpose in a sense. And they say, well, if he's a good God, why does he create suffering? Why do people suffer?
Right.
If they want to be more Islamic, they'll say, if he's a merciful God,
Exactly.
if he's a Rahman, Rahim, why do people suffer? Why is there suffering? And I'll do you one better, not just humans, animals. Okay, animal suffering. So it's very simple, which is, firstly, human suffering is generally explained by this. Our purpose as created beings, first and foremost, I suppose, we're created as limited, finite things.
Okay.
Right? We have limitations.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know you have limitations? Because there are things you can't do, and there's pains you can't get rid of.
Absolutely.
If you were born into a universe where everything was fun and you could do whatever you want to do, you'd think you were God.
That's right.
What reminds you and all of us and everyone that they're not God? Suffering. Stuff you can't choose and stuff you can't get rid of. Challenges you can't get rid of, things that you're born with. And seeing it in other people, you remind that we are not God. So we, one of our purposes, you could say, is also we bear witness to our own limitations. By bearing witness to our own limitations, we better bear witness to one who doesn't have limitations.
That's right.
So in a sense, both pleasure and pain, which are basically just the motivational forces of the universe. You run away, you are repelled by pain, and you go towards pleasure. So naturally, beings that experience things, for us, we experience the forces of the universe more than just this cup that experiences, or glass that experiences gravity or a magnetic force if it was made out of metal. We experience forces of this universe via pain and pleasure, and it's just part of the existence of us as physical beings. But every created object in this universe will experience its limitations, and for humans and animals as experiential beings that experience this universe, we experience our limitations as forces, as pain and pleasure, and that's part of us bearing witness to the creation of the universe. So the creation of the universe by the Creator as a limited, finite thing, because by seeing the limited thing, you bear knowledge and witness of the unlimited thing. So pain and pleasure is just part of the existence. But the great thing is, it's for such a small period of time compared to eternity afterwards.
I understood that. This is very well understood, that Allah made some things to compare, for us to just compare, to see, because if there was only pleasure, we wouldn't know what pain is, and if there was only pain, we wouldn't know what pleasure is. But having said so, how would we address what fate exactly is? Fate, like we know, the taqdeer, qadr, in that we know. That, for example, let's take an example. If a snake has bitten a man, if a man has fallen down from a building, is a good thing or a bad thing? Of course, if by the looks of it, it's bad. It feels like, of course, the man hasn't done anything wrong to suffer with that, but it still happened. So how would we say that fate, of course, had its part, and whatever has been in our faith as well, it's been written before. So what's our part in that? And also, all of those things that I've just mentioned, of course, there might be many other things. They are bad inherently if you see by the looks of it. So are they really bad? Of course, first of all, I should ask. Or should we consider them good? Or should we consider them neutral? We can't understand. Whatever is it. How would we then address that?
Okay. So the Quran uses the word, like the words, good and bad in different ways. So the same word in the Quran can be used to mean different things. Like dhann is an Arabic word. It means doubt. Sometimes it's used to mean certainty, the opposite. Okay, so there's a verse of Quran that says Allah creates both the good and the bad, to paraphrase. And so He's the creator of the good and the bad, things that hurt us or we feel a pleasure from. So He created both those things. Right. The Quran reminds us very clearly of this. But at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not bad. Although technically, in a sense, He's not good in that He's filling a higher moral to a higher God. Right? But He is just and merciful, is what the Quran tells us. He's just and merciful. So what this means is that there's an assumption behind everything that it confuses any human being, and behind any mistake you ever make, there's always an assumption. Any mistake you ever make in your entire life will always be an assumption. And there's an assumption in the question. The assumption is that suffering can only come as a recompense for punishment. Okay, suffering can come just by itself. It's not necessarily has to be connected to you are being punished by being bitten by a snake. What did I do? You didn't do anything necessarily to deserve being punished.
Exactly.
However, in the aspect for a human being, there might have been one thing. Your end of your existence was deemed to be at that time, and Allah used a stake to do it, right? Because you're not an eternal being in this universe. You are a finite being, finite in space and time. which means your time must end. So Allah used a snake, right? And that's it. There's many other things. People might say, maybe it was a benefit. You're dead now. You won't be using resources. And okay, you don't need to go that far. Okay. Just simply, what's the hikmah? No, the hikmah is that Allah creates human beings for a duration of time. We're all going to die, and at that point, Allah used a snake for that particular guy, for example.
That's right.
There's nothing more to it. There's nothing wrong or essentially evil or unjust about it, because Allah doesn't owe us unlimited life. Right.
That's right. Right.
So the assumption is, Allah owed me, and He didn't allow me to fulfill my infinite life, or he took my life away from me. No, did you give yourself life?
Exactly.
No. So Allah just took back what He gave you in the first place. It's His to take. So this is why people overthink it. Like it's nothing really, anything major. But at the same time, you will be a bear witness like every other living thing on this planet, that you are a finite thing. And by knowing that you're a finite thing, this better shows that, makes you bear witness that there is something that made you that is not like you.
Let's just compare Islam or Islamic morality with other religions, which I for some reason, whatever is happening in the world right now, right in the Middle East, right in the heart of the earth, and in Palestine, in Gaza right now, I always wanted to, because I'm not an expert in comparative religion or world religions. You might be the best person to tell me about it. That is it somewhere mentioned in the Old Testament or the Torah, whatever they might want to call it, to make people suffer, to kill children, to rape women? Is it somewhere? Because it used to be, whatever is the word is corrupted, or for whatever reason, they are the adherents of the word of God, right? So is it something that they follow, that it's been written in their scriptures? Or is it something that they disagree or they contradict with their own religion, and they end up doing the things that they are doing right now? So what exactly is their level of morality? And you can also include Christianity as well, how you compare that with Islam, and how Islam is better in comparison.
Sure. Well, let's compare Judaism first then.
Okay.
So Islam differs from Judaism. We have a more sophisticated set of the rules of warfare. We have more texts from the Sunnah and the Quran that deals with warfare, and the regulations and limitations for it, right? So one verse of the Quran: fight those who fight you, but do not transgress, right? So Allah does not love the transgressors, to translate the verse. So this is where, and then the commentators and of course many ahadith about not targeting non-combatants, women, children, elderly, and so on and so forth. Someone who's just plowing their field, a farmer basically. So we have this from the Sahabas and from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In essence, we're only meant to target combatants.
Okay.
In battlefield. There's some discussions as to the potential of collateral damage. So let's say if the enemy was to put non-combatants in front of them in a battle, should you not charge them or fight them in a battle? Or even if they took Muslim captives and they put them in front as a shield, would that deter you? That should not deter people from fighting, but when you fight, avoid as best you can. Like you're not allowed to target non-combatants. That's an ironclad rule. Now, this is fighting not against all the Muslims. This is rules for fighting against mushriks, against people who are basically not believers of Islam and even polytheists. Judaism doesn't have those rules, at least mainstream Jewish legal thought about this. Because they call it the Old Testament, or the Jews wouldn't like to call it Old Testament because it's not the old one, it's the current one.
Okay.
The Hebrew Bible, right? The Tanakh is the full name for all the books that they add into they call the Jewish Bible. They have the invasion of the Israelites into the land of Canaan, now called Palestine, where they were dealing with the mushrikeen, the polytheists of Canaan, and they were commanded to take cities. Amalek was a key one, which Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, himself cited. Like, Amalek, we are fighting Amalek, we must treat them like Amalek, basically. But they were allegedly commanded by God in the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible to kill the men, the women, and children, but to leave alive only young girls that have never known a man, virgins.
Ooh.
And take those girls for themselves. Okay, young girls, right? I'm not sure how they would test that, but anyway, that's what they were commanded to do. So what then you can't be a Jewish religious scholar and say your God is wrong in the Bible for commanding this. Then it's not an absolute evil then in their legal thinking to kill and target and wipe out non-combatants because it's in the Hebrew Bible.
Ooh.
Now, in theory, Christians they can't condemn it either because it's in the Bible that they've added on to they take as well as their New Testament, they say, or the Injil mixed with mostly letters from Paul, who didn't even meet Jesus, but I'm not going to get into that anyway. And he even says that no one taught me my doctrines. Like, so where'd you learn it from? Where'd you get your ilm from?
Exactly.
I'm not going there. So
inspired by the Holy Ghost.
Yeah. So now Christians are a bit of a mixed bag, as they call it, a mixed case, because there is a debate amongst Christians, has always been for a long time, as to how much of the Hebrew Bible do they take for their laws and how much have been abrogated or they don't need to follow anymore because Jesus came with a reduced set of laws or some kind of new system. There's been a big debate. But Christians have generally adopted the Catholic Church being the main one, which is technically the biggest faction of the Christians. They've called it the law of double effect, as they call it, which is in essence the same as Islam. You're not allowed to target non-combatants. So non-combatants, in instance, cannot be targeted. And they use some derivations of Jesus' teachings. But you see, the problem for them is Jesus wasn't a politician. He wasn't a leader of a state. So they don't have much guidance in politics. That was probably why it will be Christians that later on would probably invent secularism, as they did, because there was so much debate as to what is or isn't what Christianity should or shouldn't do with the political system.
Exactly.
That because it was never meant to be one. Long story short, it seems like St. Paul's said, which was not a disciple of Jesus, but was at the time of the disciples of Jesus, the Sahaba of Isa alayhi salam. He himself was expecting the end times in his life, that the end times would come. Jesus would come back for the second coming in his lifetime. In the New Testament, it says, in this generation. Right,
so that's an unfulfilled purpose.
In this generation, it didn't come out. And if you want to see gymnastics, you just listen to Christians explain it. Okay. Like, forget all Olympic gymnastics.
Okay.
Just listen to Christians explain it. So they didn't expect that Jesus wouldn't come back in their lifetime, and they didn't expect that the Roman Empire would gradually convert to Christianity and Christians would actually rule a state. Now what do you do? All right. So despite that, they constructed an ad hoc set of ideas for maybe some political and guidance for warfare. And it was generally accepted that you can't target non-combatants, not the innocents.
What we saw after 9/11, there was a great deal of propaganda against Islam, Islamophobia. There were many people who you would find saying that there is a problem in Quran because Quran teaches violence and to kill kafirs and non-Muslims and stuff. There were many things being said. But whatever you have just told me about regarding Tanakh or the Hebrew Bible, so if that time they say that the violence was because of the book of God, should we also say at this particular time that the main cause of trouble is the Hebrew Bible, which is teaching these Jews to do whatever they are doing right now to the Palestinians?
I wouldn't say that, because Zionists are a mixed bag of people. Many people who are Zionists don't believe in God. They're atheists. Okay, basically. The Ben Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, and leader of the Israeli settler movement before Israel was created, is an atheist, and most of the Zionist Jews, in fact, the ones who started political Zionism and pretty much created the state of Israel, were atheists and socialists.
Oh, right.
I mean, Ben Gurion was the head of a socialist party, an Israeli socialist party. He's a socialist. Right.
So basically, it doesn't have anything to do with their Jewish religion. It is something which is very opposite to what they might believe and what they had in their faith at that time.
It started as ethnic nationalism. right? So Jews as an ethnicity against the persecution that they were facing in Europe, right? Because the Europeans never truly accepted them. They said, even though the Jews have been there for 2,000 years in Europe, they're basically Europeans. They intermarry. They look European. They don't look Middle Eastern. The European Jews, that is. So they didn't believe in God. They came. They said, like, this is a cultural place of our ethnic identity. You know, it had some connection to our past or as an ethnicity. So we want to come back here. But then after 1967. War, the war which Israel had won, was viewed as by religious Zionists as a divine favor from God, because previously they had actually opposed Zionism. They thought that you can't create the state of Israel until the Messiah comes back and does it. So until the Mahdi comes, the Messiah comes back. So Freudian slip there, because somehow I've heard that before. Anyway, so you can't create the state. You can't reestablish the state of the biblical state of the kingdom of David and Solomon until the Messiah comes back. Okay. That was the mainstream religious understanding of Jews. But then 1967 changed that. It was viewed by many of them as, God is approving of the state of Israel. And therefore, they started to jump in and begin to lead Zionist initiatives like settling the West Bank with illegal settlements. And they have a higher birth rate than the secular atheist Zionists.
The Jewish nationalists,
the religious Zionists.
Okay.
Now, you could say Jewish nationalists, I suppose, but religious Zionists. Professor Norman Finkelstein, who is Jewish himself, said you should call them ethnic supremacists or Jewish supremacists because they believe in racial supremacy. But so you had the secular Zionists initially were the ones leading Zionism, and they didn't care about what the Bible said. But they would commit massacres for ethno-nationalist reasons, nationalist reasons, racial reasons. The typical reasons you've seen genocide happening in the world. The religious Zionists, who are now becoming a strong majority in the state of Israel because of their bigger birth rates, they're the ones who are justifying genocide and massacre, and many of them by references to the Bible. It's why Benjamin Netanyahu used the word Amalek, who Amalek was a people, as I said in the Bible, who were condemned to be massacred, men, women, children, even the cattle was to be killed. So, what did cattle do? Yeah. So now, in a sense, it's a mixed bag of reasons for why that genocide is happening. But I'll tell you something where the religion that is behind most of Zionism, or most Zionists. A Zionist is anyone who believes that the land of Palestine belongs to one ethnic group, the Jews, to dominate and rule that, and other people, even if they're the majority, can't rule. If you believe that you're a Zionist, most Zionists aren't Jews. Ooh. Most Zionists are Christians.
Oh, that's
American Christians.
Okay.
And there's this doctrine that was spread amongst American Christians, which is that if you put the Jews back into Palestine, you gather the Jews back, quote unquote, into Palestine, even if their connection to the ancient Israelites is like modern day Italians are to the ancient Romans. They're not the ancient Romans themselves, right? But anyway, if you bring the Jews back to Palestine, Jesus will come.
Okay, so that's the interest.
And bring about the end times. This doctrine has led that they are probably one of the main by numbers lobby group in America for pushing the American government to support the state of Israel.
And the Protestants and the Catholics both believe in the same. There's no difference between them.
It's mixed, of course, right? Okay. But it seems mostly concentrated with American Christians, because you saw the previous pope before he died. He condemned what Israel was doing and how it treats the Palestinians and so on and so forth. In fact, Israel actually, I think the Vatican's diplomat to Jerusalem was denied entry to a ceremony. I think a memorial in a Jewish memorial, maybe the Holocaust memorial. I have to double check that. I forgot it was, but because of what the Pope had said prior, just about criticizing the Gaza war and all this stuff. Like, what's it got to do with the Holocaust memorial? Like, that's something else. In fact, we're trying to prevent, a repetition of genocides, right? But anyway, so the Catholic Church outside of America probably is criticizing what the Zionists are doing, but in America, it's Christians. Many Christians are solid supporters of Israel because they've been told this doctrine that doesn't actually have any clear support in the Bible or in the New Testament. You can't really find it in the Bible, but it got taught. I think it's called dispensationalism. That's it. That the children of Israel and their descendants today, whoever remains their descendants today, are still chosen by God's chosen people, and so they deserve the land of Palestine.
Okay.
Because God gave it to them, so it remains with them. Whereas other Christians have actually said, no, Christians are the chosen people. They are the new church. The old church was the Israelites. They failed. They rejected Jesus. We are the new Jama'ah. We are the new chosen people. We have a right to the Holy Land and anywhere else. Till whatever, inherit the world or whatever. But usually by conversion. But anyway, so this is it goes across Christian sects. This doctrine of dispensationalism. That is what's causing the massacres and things, because they are supporting a ethno-racist state to commit massacres. So that is the main religious bloc. If they weren't there wouldn't be any much lobby groups left. I mean, you have AIPAC, of course, American Israel kind of lobby, a very famous one, very powerful one, but it doesn't have as much power in numbers compared to the Christian lobby groups.
If I am to analyze and if I have to also say that their standards of morality and they are very contradictory, they are paradoxical, whatever I must say. But there is one factor which you might have noticed as well, because you live there in the West, that their commercial ethics are very good. Like, their dealings are better than, if I see here in Pakistan, their dealings are better than us, because there is some interest, there is this monetary interest involved in that. So their commercial ethics are good. You go to their shops and they will, deal you quite well and each and everything. But when it comes to this particular thing, recently, the flotilla, which was, taken from the international waters, Greta Thunberg was also detained and sent back to Sweden, and she happens to be an atheist as well. So why at that particular time, when there is some monetary benefit involved, they can very well deal you the way, in the best of the ways. But when it comes to something which deals with humanity directly, is a human right. Food is a human right. To be able to live is a human right. Here, it doesn't work. Why is it so? Why is it so paradoxical?
I'm glad you asked that question, because we're going to go right back to the very beginning of this podcast, right? It links all the way back to something I said at the very beginning, which is an atheist might be able to explain a hikmah, wisdom of why you should have morality within your society, but they can't justify why you should care about weaker societies who are not yours. They're
exactly.
Different people. So in America, apartheid is illegal. Racial supremacy is illegal. Torture is illegal. That's why in the War on Terror, when they created what CIA black sites, as they called, and torture places in Bagram in Afghanistan, and of course Guantanamo Bay, these are all outside of the American borders.
So
because the law doesn't cover
okay.
the outside. I mean, to some extent it does, but it doesn't cover how they can treat people, especially foreign citizens, outside the American borders. It's a loophole, right? And they can get around. So in America and England and many other Western countries, when the police arrest you, they say they have to read your rights. You have the right to remain silent. Why do they say that? It's because it's actually it was officiated because as a ban against torture. You can't be compelled to speak, and therefore you can't be tortured. Right? That's why they have it here. In many Muslim countries, you're going to be compelled to speak,
exactly.
right?
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, in some way.
Exactly.
And so, but they're totally happy supporting dictators that don't believe in these rights. They're totally happy with like they don't like, let's say, Somali pirates taking over American merchant vessels, or the Houthis blowing up American merchant vessels because it affects their interest. And they say this is against the law of the ocean, the law of the sea that we all agreed on. And you can't destroy or board a vessel in international waters, but they can allow it for an aid ship going towards Israel because Israel supports America's geopolitical interests in the Middle East, of helping to America to control the Middle East and dominate over it. So Israel's job has always been, and it sells its services, like, this is what I can do for you. I can help control the Middle East for you because we live there. And we have air bases, we have all this monitoring equipment, and you can give us this stuff extra. We'll help you make sure that the Muslims in the Middle East don't unite back together and they remain backward and infighting, preferably. That's the job. That is their job in the state of Israel. And America uses them. Yeah, it has puppet dictators, it's true, but you can't fully trust puppet dictators. They can change their minds, you don't know. But Israel is in their mutual interest for America to support it, because Israel will always depend. It's a small country. It will always depend on a larger power, which is why, paradoxically, America doesn't want Israel to take over the Middle East, and become powerful, because then it wouldn't need America anymore. Right, leverage. Exactly. So America likes to play this balancing game in the Middle East. But this shows you my point, which is the atheist cannot argue to an American politician what they're doing is wrong, because American politician says, we have these laws in America because it serves the enlightened self-interest of the nation. But there's nothing higher than the God, quote unquote, of national interest.
Ooh.
Right? So if you're serving that God, you don't need to serve the God of, caring about humans and just actually allowing massacres across the world. And even if you have to lose leverage internationally, just care about other human beings and treat them equally. No, you don't get much money for that.
So when supposedly, but effectively as well, if a human life passes and exceeds the American borders, so it no longer has the same value. It doesn't apply on the value of a human life. It doesn't apply. The laws doesn't apply on it. As soon as it exceeds the border, it loses the value. How, I cannot comprehend that. How does it happen? Like in that one particular region, it has that value, but when it exceeds your borders, it goes to some other place. It loses the value. How this evaluation works?
Well, America will take interest if it matters to them, right? They can gain something from it.
All right.
So let's say Syria revolution happens. America doesn't like Bashar al-Assad. Bashar al-Assad is with Iran and has got his own ideas. America wants to subjugate Syria. So it will then, we support the Syrian revolution. We condemn Syria's use of chemical weapons against its own people. But not when Saddam Hussein used it against the Kurds or the Iranians in the Iran-Iraq war, then it's okay to use chemical weapons. Or when Israel uses phosphorus weapons against the Palestinians, it's not so bad anymore, right? Because it doesn't harm American interests in America to let Israel do what it wants to do. They might see as a benefit in some way, but it harms American interests to care about to stop Israel from doing what it wants to do, because Israel might say, well, if you don't do what we want, then we will not do what you want, and things like this, stuff like that. But also something else, which was, you asked me another question. Why is it that in the United States of America, there's more trust in financial transactions? People will honor their financial transactions more than they might do in Pakistan. Now, I haven't lived in Pakistan. I haven't did it at all. I'm only here for about 1.5 months.
Oh, yes.
But I've seen it in other parts of the Muslim world the same. Why is it that you might meet very good people, very hospitable, nice people, and you won't actually find very hospitable people in America, let's say. You might find some, but not as. Yet, at the same time, you have a self-interested society based on individualism, but they're very professional in their business dealings, and they will honor their word usually, whereas maybe not so much in Pakistan. And there's a very simple reason for this, which is they'll call it, in a sense, hikmah, okay? You could be a self-interested, selfish individual. They even call it enlightened self-interest, okay? You can have a society where everyone's self-interested, only care about themselves, but they realize that if they follow a set of rules and they establish these rules, and everyone follows it, everyone benefits more from it. They say a rising tide carries all the ships up. Yeah, all rising because all boats. Whereas in the Muslim world, it's more anarchy. Okay, so you might have very good individuals, very nice individuals, but no faith in society, and therefore no investment in society, because you spend your energy in society, it's like wasting it. Just care about you and your family. So what I've noticed in the West is this: in the Muslim world, inside the house is very well decorated, very nice. Everyone spends a lot of time decorating inside, very beautiful inside. Maybe even the house itself is nice. Outside, it's a complete tip, as we say in English. Rubbish everywhere. The roads are broken.
Exactly.
In the West, in an average Western family, you could say, the roads are very nice, very well kept. Everything's well kept outside. The infrastructure is very good. Inside the house, it's a mess. They only tidy up when guests come, okay, right? But normally it's a complete mess, okay? They tidy up for guests, or if they're TikToking, right, inside their house. And the reason is because they just simply realized that enlightened self-interest. If we have this system in place and we all follow the same rules, we benefit from that system.
Okay.
But in the Muslim world, we don't think of things like systems. We simply think of things in persons. Is the person in power someone I trust? No, maybe, somewhat, whatever. It's only a simple equation. Either I'm dominating society, or I'm the leader, or I'm not the leader. If I'm not the leader, I don't care, because I'm being dominated. So I'm not their slave. I'm not gonna do my own thing. Whatever. It's about people, not about systems. So we don't have confidence in a system because we don't have any system, frankly. I likened the Jahiliyyah, as I call it, to the Muslim world, to anarchy. Not the absence of government, but the absence of a system, because you can't trust society just for the sake of it.
Exactly.
You need to trust something. Society, you can't find it anywhere. Where society is in a microscope, whatever, you can only trust rules. And if no one follows any rules, or there's no established rules,
exactly,
and there's no reason to follow those rules, then you won't follow it.
Exactly. Right? For whatever they do is their interest, but we do not even acknowledge or understand our interest. That's what I see here is we don't really know what things should benefit us, or what should be harmful to us, because whatever is happening is harmful, but we do not recognize it. But on the other hand, last question, although it might not be very well related to the other things that we're discussing, but there are some objections on the morality of Islam, or should I say the Prophet of Islam, that some of the things, although I have a couple of questions, but I'll only ask one, is regarding his marriage. First of all, is pedophilia right or wrong? Second of all, the marriage of the Prophet with Sayyidah Aisha, how would you justify it? Although I have questions regarding slavery as well, but just leave it for that.
We can discuss that. Why not?
Sure. So go ahead.
The food here is spicy. Let's the questions be spicy too.
Okay. Sure. Go ahead. Address.
Okay. So with the issue of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's marriage to Aisha, the issue of pedophilia, and I think the ibophilia, which is attraction to people who are newly pubescent.
Okay.
All right. So they've had past puberty, but they're still just young, and so pedophilia technically is prepubescence, and so doesn't apply at all. So prepubescence, of course, there should not be any intercourse with someone who is physically and mentally not mature for sex. Simple, and reproduction across the board. There's no ifs, buts, no discussions, and no one debates that. No one argues that. Now, people outside the West, so people in the West might assume that Islam allows that because of Aisha is 9 years old, but what they don't know is, we don't know I suppose we get some indications, but if Aisha was she was pubescent, so she menstruated, so her body was able to reproduce, and she was mentally mature, That's the only question. And the Quran, we know from the Quran, it talks about that you can't be married to someone, so you can't consummate with someone who's not thiqqa, able and strong enough and able to have reproduction both psychologically and physically. Because it talks about when the orphan, you look after the money of the orphan until they become thiqqa, until they become able to basically deal with their own affairs. So what we have in this situation is the Quran defines where you might say the real puberty is.
Okay.
Mental and biological maturity for sex, whereby there is no negative effects on them whatsoever to start their reproduction at that time. Issue is, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would never have consummated with Aisha unless she was able both mentally and physically, and that's all we care about. Now, I could argue that there might be a girl you might present who is 18 years old or 20 years old and might fail one of those two tests. She might not be mentally mature enough for marriage and reproduction, or even in some cases physically, right? So Islam doesn't say, let's set a standard age and everyone must conform to this age. Because what you get is, in the West, this is quite common. Many people have sexual experiences underneath the legal age of consent, which is 16 actually in UK, which is funny because the way people use the word pedophilia, they use it to mean you having an attraction to someone who's underneath the legal age.
Okay.
So in one Western country, you're okay to have sex with a girl who's 16, 17. A Western country, you're a pedophile, right? You could be, you could take your girlfriend just traveling from one country to the next. You're an 18-year-old boy, she's 16-year-old girl.
You're able to do whatever
and
you
you'd
like.
become a pedophile just by going across the border.
Also, one point, 15 years and 364 days, she's a minor, and on his or her 16th birthday, good to go. How does that work? One day changes all of the things. How does that work? Mentally, physically, how does that work?
Yeah, and some European countries technically, I think, have 13 years on their books.
Oh, yes,
in
yes,
some
absolutely.
Way. But the point is, Islam doesn't say, here's this one set age for every single human being, because what you get is, you get young people who are actually sexually very desirous, right? They have that, but because they're 15, 14, whatever. I mean, they've even made, I think they call it Romeo and Juliet laws, which is a subclause in America, which is like, okay, if a 13-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl have sex, we won't punish them because they're within the same age range. Oh, so it's okay in that situation? Is like, because they're in the same age range, they're just exploring. I was like, now you're making exceptions. The issue is this, is that, look, make it where a person, and each on a case-by-case basis, is this person physically and mentally mature enough to have reproduction healthily?
Okay.
Yeah? If yes, fine. If not, no. Wherever that age might be, and so on. Of course, it's not going to be 5 years old, but there was a case I saw, I think it was in Romania. A boy was taken to court. I think it was 18 years old, maybe. Potentially a young man. He was taken to court for sleeping with a girl who was when she presented in court, she was 11 years old. So she was 10 years old because she got pregnant.
Okay.
And he said, I didn't know that she was actually underage. She told me that her age was 16 or whatever. She said so, and the court actually acquitted him. Said that, well, she does look older than that, and she gave birth at 11 to a child totally healthily, which means she had sex at 10 years old, right? The case being is the court let him go because well, she looks older, so she must have looked physically mature, and she gave birth healthily to a child having sex at 10 years old. So all this shows is that what objective basis, we always go back to that,
exactly,
does an atheist or anyone argue that something is wrong or right? So if you are going to say there's a physical, biological reason, be consistent.
Exactly.
I say, all right, great. You know what? Then fine. We'll have it. We have that. Biological maturity, mental maturity. Any objections? Oh, but culturally, I don't care about your culture. Give me those two criteria or move on. I think that's case closed.
I don't think so. There might be any consistent criteria all around the world. There might be different cultures and societies where things are different. Also in Islam, if I am to say, there is a set criteria for marriage. Don't marry unless you are able to physically and financially, right? That is the case. And by physically, it means, of course, if you are able to. And is the prepubescent marriage in Islam disallowed?
Well, in England, we used to call it betrothal. Betrothing,
okay.
which was actually part of English culture. The parents of two couples would say, you know what, I marry my son to your daughter. It was called betrothal. What would happen is once they reached the age of maturity, they would, in theory, affirm that. So they would affirm that, and then the marriage would go ahead. Or if not, it would become an annulment. So it wouldn't be a divorce; it would be an annulment because they didn't consummate. Similar to Islamic practice on the matter.
Exactly. It was surprising for me too.
I think you had to get consent. I think it was part of the English law. I have to double check the laws. You can get married, but underneath the age of consent. I have to double check it if it's actually still on the law books of England. But you can't consummate at all until reaching the age of consent in England. But you can get married underneath that but get betrothed before that time but you have to have parental permission. I mean, so I think that illustrates the point really. Like having a document saying you two are betrothed. Sure, if you want, be betrothed, but it'll be up to them when they reach the age of maturity to then affirm that, and then it becomes you could say a full-on marriage, and they consummate.
Mashallah, we had an excellent session and a very.
Forgot the slavery.
Oh yes, slavery.
Can't forget slavery.
Oh yes, go ahead on the slavery. Oh, yes.
Right. Okay. So slavery is something else, which I think atheists might struggle to argue. So they would simply argue that would you like to be a slave? No, then it's wrong and illegal and so on and so forth. And I say, look, I think you guys can't argue against it for a number of reasons, but one of the reasons is this: would you like to be in debt?
Absolutely not.
So should we make being in debt illegal?
Debt is legal, of course. It has to be.
There's also debt slavery is now the most prevalent modern day slavery.
Nowadays, commercial slavery. Yeah.
Commercial slavery, emotional slavery to a manipulative partner.
Yes.
There's all kinds.
Yes.
In the American system, of course, there's also a type of de facto slavery where if you're in an economy where it's an employer's market, and in America, the boss can fire you just like that.
Exactly.
In Europe, they've put these laws where you can't be fired without due reason or process, and you can sue. But in America, you can be fired just like this. That. This means that the boss says to you, "Can you stay extra hours and do this for me as a favor?"
Okay.
If you don't, then I might find people who can do that. Right? No, they're not going to pay you. And if you feel you're forced to, otherwise you could lose your income and then be kicked out your house. And,
exactly.
Whatever, then that's a kind of slavery in a sense too. Should we ban that? So I'd simply say that simply arguing that would you like to be in that situation is in a form of argument is not a correct basis. The correct basis should be really what are people's most basic rights, right? And start from there. So in Islam, all types of slavery were made illegal or entryway to make into slavery, except I think it was two. But
the war prisoners, I guess?
War prisoners is generally the case.
Okay.
Yeah. So war prisoners is if you're captured, if you start fighting the Muslims and you lose the battle, you could be basically captured and put to work. You know, pay off all those things that you destroyed and all that kind of stuff.
What about the concubines that you get? Oh, sorry, those female boss.
Okay. Right. So there's two things here. So first, I'll talk about that. So the Third Geneva Convention, I believe, this actually allows the same thing. Prisoners of war can be made to work, can be compelled to work.
Okay.
It's part of the Geneva Conventions. Captured British soldiers, captured German soldiers were made to work during World War II on the fields.
What defines the work? What includes the work, basically?
Any manual labor, as long as it's not something that is highly risky. And it was deemed to be unethical to make them work in war factories making weapons to kill their own comrades. So, but you can use them on the fields, farming, mining, technically a whole bunch of stuff you can do. I think you're not allowed to make officers, to compel officers to work, but the average soldier you can, so works out well for the officers, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right. So
I love it.
The Geneva Convention actually allows you to use war captives for compelled and coerced labor. America hasn't actually banned slavery, by the way.
That's a news.
Yeah, I'm not joking to you. I think you know now I'm not joking. The 13th Amendment,
Okay.
the amendment that was brought in at the end of the Civil War, American Civil War, which was a massacre, caused massacre of the 500,000 to more Americans died in the 1800s population, right? So that's quite a lot. They brought in the 13th Amendment after that war to, as they say, abolish slavery. They say that slavery shall be herefore abolished for all people except as a punishment for crime.
So Django Unchained, I used to think it was all fictional, but it doesn't seem like any fictional anymore.
Well, I mean, that was when slavery was allowed. Django Unchained, the movie, and don't ask me why I know this. Okay. But
okay.
In American prisons to this day, American prisoners can be coerced to do work against their will.
Oh, that's a bit news.
But they usually don't do beatings anymore, because beatings have generally been disallowed in America. So instead they would deprive you of privileges and limit your food as a punishment if you don't do like work on the field. And to this day you'll see, almost like it was like slavery had not changed, work gangs where mostly black inmates, so mostly black prisoners all chained together, presided over by a white guy on a horse, on cotton fields and plantations, doing the same stuff that their ancestors were forced to do. To this day, Google it.
Oh yeah. Also that physical punishment also works for some reason. It might be in the shape of domestic violence. It might be in the shape of, if someone hasn't watched a movie called Whiplash, it's also worked professionally as well. And right in America, wherever domestic violence is happening, violence of all sorts and all kinds is happening. And they are the ones who are the champions of human rights as well. It's a big contradiction.
So now I've said that, what does Islam say? Islam simply says that, okay, there's that, and there's also situations where in tribal warfare, if the men all get captured, who looks after the women? Or the women can't be without a protector and so on. So some didn't have a centralized welfare system where you just get all the enemy populations, women, and you just somehow house them. How are you going to look after them? With who? Who's going to do it?
Exactly.
So it had a means of guardianship, which is basically, okay, these women and this tribe that fought the Muslims is absorbed into Muslim society and in a sense rehabilitated. So the men might work, the women would become part of families, would work. But Islam didn't say this woman must be a sexual concubine. There's no I have not seen any obligation in any hadith or Quran where it says, if you are a female slave, and there could be female Muslim ones, whether they convert to Islam, what have you, you must service your master, well, it wouldn't be, actually, we even abolished the word master, by the way. Hadith prohibits using the word master.
Exactly.
You can't use the word master because only Allah is the master.
That's true.
You must service your Sayyid, your patron, I suppose. In Arabic, it can be used with like patron or like boss in a sense.
Chief or something.
In a sense, yeah. I mean, but in this sense, we're Sayyid, boss or patron. You must service him if there's his sexual needs. It doesn't say that. I have not found there's no verse of Quran or Hadith. What is the case is, if you're living with a woman who is your responsibility, you provide her clothes, you provide her food, and it must be, by the way, the same clothes and food that you have.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, right? You can't overburden them with work. This is the same thing with male slaves. You can't overburden them. If you do, you have to help them work. I never heard American slavery like that. But anyway, if, let's say, you two fall in love or you two want to actually have sex, is it haram? Well, why is zina haram, you could say? Because it's sex with someone you have no responsibility for.
Exactly.
You have no responsibility to them. They get pregnant, man, who cares? They're used and abused because you don't have any responsibility to them. Between a sayyid and his jariya, which is the Arabic word, to mean a girl under him or what have you. Well, it's almost like his wife, basically, because he looks after her. Her well-being is his responsibility. Food, clothing, shelter, everything. Right? So, and if she gets pregnant, by the way, he can't sell her or remove her. That's it. You get pregnant, it's stuck.
Absolutely.
Right? The only way to get rid of her is to actually make her free. Yeah. People might say, oh, so you can get rid of her. Well, you can get rid of married people by divorce.
Exactly.
Yeah, right? So it really is not different to actual marriage, to be honest, except that the wife has a little bit more rights than the husband.
Yes, that's right.
But there's not much difference. So then why would it be haram like zina is haram? So there's no issue there. But if the woman refuses, say, I don't want to have sex with you, you know what was strange is that I could see no classical scholar for 1,000 years at least. I couldn't find a single classical scholar that actually discussed the situation of a woman refusing, and if she did, permission to rape or permission to force yourself on that person. Instead, what we see is that if a slave is being physically abused, they are instantly made free.
Oh, yes.
Now that's in Islam, right? From a hadith, Prophet Muhammad saw a man hitting a slave and chastised him for doing that. And the man asked, like, what can I do to repent from this? Whenever you have to release that. The slave is free now. Okay? Imagine being your slave releases them. I don't know of any other law system that has that.
Exactly.
So in Islam, and you might use the word slave. I even prefer not even like to use that. We have a word that's more similar in English called indentured or servant or indentured servant.
Yes.
Servant. You can't be beaten. You can't be overburdened. Your sayyid or boss or patron has to give you the same food and clothes that they use.
You're basically given a good life.
Pretty much. No beating, same clothes and food as your servant. And also, if they're released and they don't have any family, what have you, they become a mawali. I know it's translated as client, but they take on the family name of the family they came from.
Okay.
Right. And they are the former boss or patron is the wali, the guardian of the person that's been freed. I don't know any other system that does that.
Exactly.
I even said, is that even slavery? I don't even think that should be called. I mean, slavery is an English word. Okay, I don't think it's a good translation.
Even that was a new information for me, that a slave doesn't necessarily have to be a sex slave, first of all, and you cannot force her. Whatever happens with her consent, and also that they are given good life as well. So who has to object on a good life? Basically, if you are taking someone, you have the responsibility towards that, and even the state has the responsibility to make sure that they are being dealt with in a good manner. So all of these things combined, it doesn't seem like a form of slavery. It doesn't seem like a slavery for me. For that
slave can go to court and testify and give testimony and seek rights. In most Western systems, that when it allowed slavery, it denied that. Slaves couldn't be represented in court. They couldn't go to court and be represented. They weren't legal people.
Okay.
Whereas in Islam, they are legal people. So I said, look, I have a video. If anyone wants to watch this, I have a whole video where I show all the ahadith and Quranic verses. I go through it in detail, not just saying this stuff. So if you just type in my name, Abdullah Al-Andalusi, and slavery, you'll find a YouTube video. I spoke at a university in London called the School of Oriental and African Studies, otherwise called SOAS. So Google it if you want. But I said, should we even call it slavery anymore? I don't think it should be called slavery anymore because it doesn't fit any of the slavery models that we are aware of.
Exactly, 100%. And mashallah, tabarakallah, we had a tremendous session. I got so many things to learn myself as well. And I'm sure many of our viewers will also learn so many things. And in case you have any questions as well, you are requested to comment it as well. And we'll make sure that we will forward that to the Sheikh as well. And he will be nice enough to also respond
to the brother.
To the brother. That's your humbleness, of course. The amount of knowledge you have been blessed with, alhamdulillah. May Allah put barakah in it. I pray for you, and I thank you so much for being here today and doing this such a productive session, alhamdulillah. And with that, I sign off the show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.